All right. Well, this is our little pro-life. I know Elijah billed me as this would be a pro-life retreat, but it really was. I felt talking about family, right? Is the most pro-life thing we can do. And now this tells you a little bit about our organization with Pro-Life Across America that you help make possible by your support and by your prayers. Please pray for us. Father, should we show the film first and then I'll talk? There's still.
That's what you like.
All right, let's go ahead. We're going to just show you. I haven't even seen this for a while. It's a little bit old because now you'll see some of our newest billboards. But we started out in 1989, and we never dreamed that we would show you. This is our 30th year. And we started out in my living room. I thought I'd never get a hot meal again. But now, thanks to supporters, we're up and running and drawing attention all over the United States. All the babies that you see here, some of them are my grandkids, those two are, but some of them are adopted kids that their parents support us, and so they send their baby picture in, and they have to get permission from the photographer. But these are all babies who have been on our billboard at one time or another. Oh. Somebody asked if we would sell our baby pictures so they could use them for other things. We said, not on your life. We've got there's a little adopted baby with Downs. There's another little baby with Downs. We had 900 billboards once that said, my brother is a blessing and he has Down syndrome. We have more calls. There's another adopted baby. Parents support us. This is one of my grandkids. This is the baby doggy, another adopted little baby with Downs.
Such precious little ones.
Those are all cousins, but I'm tired.
Yeah.
Will this automatically go in, Father? I don't know. I don't even know how to run these things.
The voice.
Yeah, that's the one that'll go right in. This is the first billboard. We couldn't afford it in color. We didn't put baby spaces. That's the second billboard. We did 42 in the state of Minnesota. Thank you, God. Third billboard. You can see how primitive our first billboards were compared to what we're doing now. We didn't have much money. We didn't have an artist, really. And we didn't think about the baby faces and what it would do to people until about 1997. And this is the first billboard where we used babies' faces. And it really made a dramatic difference to people who could envision their own niece, nephew, cousin, baby, brother, sister. It reminded them. Again, these are our earliest billboards, 1998, I think that was. That's an adopted baby. Now in high school. There's a gal in the state of Missouri said, I'll put up one billboard. She's standing by it. She ends up, she's our Missouri representative and travels all over the state begging for funds for us. We're selling our Christmas cards. Anything to get raise funds for pro-life. It's addicting. This is an adopted baby. It's Christmas. Get ready for Christmas. That's the grandmother holding the baby that's in the app. They sent it in. Another adopted baby. Parents of this little guy. This is baby Augie. You saw him before. He's a little Down baby. We had more calls to our hotline thanking us for drawing attention to the Downs babies, even by people who claimed they were pro-abortion. Let's go into our film fodder. I don't know if we do this or do we have to switch it over? There we go. Is that
Which one? Radio
the,
ads?
which, it would be the, I don't know which one it is, because I've never done this before. I always have somebody else do it for me, so would it be the Pro-Life Across America? These are the extra, there, that's the one we want.
There it is.
Or the short version is fine too, because I'm going to talk, so then they don't have to listen to everything. Hello, my name is Kuharski. I'd like to tell you about the life-saving work of Pro-Life Across America. We're known as the Billboard People. Since 1989, we've sponsored thousands of billboards in hundreds of cities across the U.S. Our focus is education through the media, and our tender and touching ads have proven to capture the minds and hearts of audiences. Pro-Life Across America is totally educational, non-profit, non-political, and tax-deductible. Our goal is to change hearts and save babies' lives. Our mission is simple, to reach people with life-saving information about alternatives to abortion, including adoption. Pro-Life Across America features an 800 hotline for help on all of our ads. This hotline can connect callers with the services they need, be it pregnancy information, alternatives to abortion, adoption assistance, or post-abortion services. Pro-Life Across America has proven to be a vital link for those in need of information, alternatives, and assistance. So often, our ads are the only visible sign of hope and help to someone on the brink of an abortion decision. In some states, as funding permits, we've added radio ads to our billboard campaigns. Radio is another way to capture attention, reaching people where they're at with life-saving information.
Did you know a baby's heart is beating 18 days from conception? What's conception?
Hello, my name is Mary Ann Kuharski, and I'm the director of Pro-Life Across America. If you know someone who is pregnant or in need of information and alternatives, or would like to support the work of Pro-Life Across America, please call 1-800-366-7773 or visit our website at prolifeacrossamerica.org. Pro-Life Across America, non-political and totally educational.
A baby's heart is beating 18 days from conception.
Pro-Life Across America's media outreach is a no-frills outreach to those in need. In fact, over 93% of what we receive in donations, that's 93 cents of every dollar, goes into our billboard campaign. Our billboards are designed to appeal not just to the pregnant woman in need, but to those who may influence her. Statistics reveal that most women who seek abortion say they did it to please someone else. Thus, our ads are designed to appeal to the boyfriend, the parents, family members, and even friends who may urge abortion as a solution. One woman in Texas put her sister in the car and drove her to the billboard location. Once I saw that big sign and realized my baby had a beating heart at 18 days, I couldn't go through with the abortion, the woman later told the pro-life counselor. Our ads portray the truth and beauty of human life, born and unborn, in tender and touching ways that cannot be dismissed. As one father recently said, we were convinced our daughter should have an abortion, but seeing those billboards just tore at our hearts. We couldn't let her go through with it. A woman in Roswell, New Mexico recently placed her baby for adoption. She told the counselor abortion was never an option for me once I saw that first billboard and realized how developed my baby already was. Recently, Pro-Life Across America sponsored over 900 billboards featuring babies with Down syndrome. We want to remind America in a gentle way that God's babies are all blessings to their parents, families, and the community. This is important because there's a deliberate movement to promote abortion for babies with Down syndrome or with babies with any suspected genetic abnormality. Recently, the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists recommended that all pregnant women, regardless of age, be offered diagnostic testing and counseling. Sadly, without proper support or resources, the vast majority of babies suspected of Down syndrome are killed by abortion, 85 to 91% as a result of such testing. This then becomes a search and destroy effort. Last year, Pro-Life Across America sponsored nearly 7,000 billboards in 45 states. With your prayers and support, we hope to do even more in the future. Why so many billboards? Because we know that the more ads we sponsor, the more people reach and babies' lives saved. In fact, when a billboard campaign is in progress, our hotline for help can receive as many as 220 calls in 1 month. That's 220 calls for information, assistance, post-abortion services in just 1 month. Yes, this outreach is costly, but money well spent. We're reaching and helping those who may have nowhere else to turn. Pro-Life Across America's goal is to sponsor billboards all across America, and our vision is limited only by funding. The average billboard costs range from $500 to $3,000, depending upon the location of the billboard and the number of viewers reached. If our media mission is not in your area, please pray. Tell your friends about our educational outreach. Invite them to join and send whatever you can to help us in this vital, life-saving mission. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you, Father. And by the way, I have some extra, just happen to have with me some extra of these little DVD discs if anybody wants to bring them to their own women's group, church group, whatever, and play it. It only takes, as you know, 6 minutes. And it can tell people what it is we do and why we do it. So, as I said when we first started, you and I are living witnesses. We're supposed to be walking billboards for faith and for life, not just to our husbands and our families and our children and our grandchildren, but to our neighbors and to everyone we know. I remember, I'm old enough to remember, you and I, by the way, share, I've traveled all over, and I meet people of all different faiths, different races, different faiths, maybe even different languages, but we have one thing in common when we're in a pro-life gathering, and that is that we believe in the sacredness of each and every human being made in God's image and likeness. And the world out there is dark. They forgot, they don't know, or they've been brainwashed to believe that if it's not wanted or inconvenient or not planned, that it's not deserving of life, or it's up to somebody else to decide. I remember when the abortion issue first came out, there was a famous newscaster, you might remember him, Walter was his first name, and it was a January, the first January, and there were pro-lifers protesting at the Supreme Court, and they showed a shot of that on national news. And this broadcaster said, well, it's an issue today, but 5 years from now it will be a non-issue. I never forgot that. Walter Cronkite was wrong, and the reason why he was wrong is because pro-lifers would not let this die. And we've made it an issue every year, whether from candidates running from mayor on up to president. They don't like that issue when we say, what is your position on abortion? But they know for us, it can be a disqualifying issue if they say they're for killing babies. And they camouflage it by saying reproductive rights or whatever it is, but we all know it ends in a baby's death. So thank heavens for pro-lifers, for prayerful people, people from all denominations, all backgrounds who believe in the sacredness of human life, who made it an issue. You know, we have the most liberal law in the world, not just in the United States, but in the world. There's no law. In fact, that's thank heavens for Alabama and for Georgia and some of the ones from Arkansas. Some of these states are starting to put through heartbeat bills or bills that some people call radical. Well, it's radical because we need a radical law. When we have abortion to live birth, and now you have politicians lighting up New York City in pink or saying that we should set a baby aside and decide after birth if we should allow the baby to live. And that's what's being proposed. We must not kid ourselves at all. Well, it started, sad to say, by an organization called Planned Parenthood. If there's ever a misnomer of a name, it's Planned Parenthood. And they're very deceptive. They take out, you have an abortion clinic there, Minnesota Planned Parenthood actually covers all of South Dakota as well. So a couple of years ago, in fact, they took out ads during college time, and they were great big newspaper ads, full page, and they blacken the ad and then they write it in white so you can see it. I don't carry those newspapers around because they've got my outfits all black. But let me just read you some of the things that, now these are where students would see these ads. This is the first ad. Babies are loud, smelly, and expensive unless you want one. Planned Parenthood of Minnesota, South Dakota. Here's another ad. Avoid stretch marks, called Planned Parenthood. Now, it might sound kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it's pretty sad when you know we're talking about killing a baby. But that's not all. I started picking up just some other things. I could spend all day talking about what Planned Parenthood does. But here's just one of the things, if you ever go into libraries, I heard somebody else goes into libraries, if you go into libraries or see what they put in, now they'll put them on the web or for kids to see, but this is a comic book, and it says Abortion Eve, a discussion about the legality of abortion, what to expect during an abortion, head trips and more, and this gal is saying it ain't exactly a happy trip, but it's better than no choice at all. So it's obviously advocating abortion, written by Planned Parenthood advocates. What's really interesting for you and I as Catholics to see is that the back page of this comic shows a mock Blessed Mother, of what we would consider to be, only if you see the head of it, it's an Alfred G. Newman from the old, can't think of the name of that comic. And she says, what, me, worry, and you can see she's pregnant and she's got babies around her. So they're mocking the Catholics' belief in the sacredness of human life. So we have to know we're kind of targeted. I always think that's a good sign that we're doing the right thing. But these are two posters that we took out of a high school in Ohio, and I shrunk them down so I could carry them around. And some of you might not be able to see in the back, but this is Joseph and Mary kneeling over the baby Jesus, and it said God had only one son, follow his example. Visit your local Planned Parenthood. This is another one. This is a God the Father with two archangels, big wings all over, and it says, if God could control how many children you should have, we think he would say 2. We also think he would bless you if you visit your nearest family planning center. You can see what these people do. Now, I live in Minneapolis, very, very liberal area. We have, they don't stop at anything. Anything to control our kids and get to our kids and make our kids think that sex is just for them. In fact, there was a newspaper article recently about Planned Parenthood launches a drive to protect abortion access. By the way, they performed 332,000 abortions in 1 year and received over 562 million tax dollars. So when people say, well, they do other good things. But they also send in speakers. This is in my area. My area has the biggest influx of Muslims, and also we had a very big influx many years ago of the Hmong family, which is from the Vietnamese area. And they settled in Minnesota. And they managed to get sex educators, which is a fancy term for pro-abortion, pro-contraceptive teachers, to go into the junior high school, making the talk easier among moms and girls. Well, you can imagine how the monks often were Catholics, so they're going against their very traditions that their parents grew up with, and they're speaking the kids' language, trying to get at the kids before the parents have any involvement or even knowledge of what's going on. Well, my kids are in this issue with me now, and a lot of them are working for me part-time from home or whatever. And recently, one of my daughters says, oh, Mom, it's all over the internet, too. You can pick up all sorts of ads for abortion. And she picked up these two ads. This is from the Orlando, oh, wait, let me read you this first one first. This is an award that was given for killing the most babies in a certain time frame, and it said, this certificate awarded to the Aurora Abortion Clinic, Aurora, Illinois, for exceeding the abortion visits for the first half of the fiscal year. So when they say they're really not here, they're here to cut down on abortions, no, that's their number one business. Just like you saw, for those of you who saw Unplanned, the movie, where the former director admitted that was where they made all their money in their business. This was an ad that my daughter pulled from the web just recently, and it was Orlando Women's Center. It says, where quality care is tradition. Save $50 with this coupon, valid for abortion services at Orlando Women's Center on Sundays only. Oh. So I could go on, but you can see here there's a diabolical evil here to kill children. And they camouflage it with every other kind of euphemistic term that you can think of. But the result is the same. Not only is it a dead baby, but we've injured for life in an emotional way the very woman who laid on that table, who believed that it was not only her right, but for some reason felt it was her only choice or her best solution. So I'll give you a few statistics. Most abortions occur between the ages of 19 and 26. The girl is between the ages of 19 and 26. A third of them are married. Not a matter of expense or whatever. But we have to remember, in America, what's legal becomes right in people's minds. And so for some reason, they'll say, well, we're not ready for this, we'll abort this baby, maybe we'll have another baby later on when we're more settled. I run into married couples who say that. 1/3 are married. Here's another very shocking statistic. 1/3 claim a religious affiliation, and that includes Catholics. Catholics have abortions as high, if not higher. They're embarrassed, they don't want their family to know, whatever. They're being pressured by families sometimes to have the abortion. 50% of abortions are now repeats. 50%. And that's why people say, well, why do you have your ad so soft? So why don't you put your billboard and say it's killing? First of all, no one will take our ad because we have to go through their legal counsel. They have to approve of the ad. But secondly, if they've already had one abortion, they may feel, you know how it is when you commit sin, the devil wants us to feel like you had your choice. It was your only choice, and you have to feel good about it. Sometimes you'll even talk someone else into committing the same kind of sin so that you'll feel better about it. But when they see that little tender baby and they see that fact, I had a woman call me from Portland, Oregon, and she said, I just felt by the tenderness of your ads, you would help me too. She had an abortion 35 years ago, and she was calling someone for the first time because she needed counseling and healing. She lived with this all her life. So we want to rope those wonderful people into don't we? We're here to point to the glory of God, and we want to pray for their souls and bring them into the pro-life camp as well. So we hope our ads will do that. The last statistic is the most shocking. 90% of all women who get an abortion said they did it to please someone else. Please or protect. So it could be their boyfriend, their husband. I don't know how many times we've heard a girl call on the phone and say, Everyone. In fact, one young girl called and said, my parents told me to get the abortion, stay in college. My boyfriend said, get the abortion, we're not ready. My roommate in college said, all my friends said, get the abortion, so I had an abortion. And now I feel like committing suicide. What can I do? I got a beautiful note from a young girl. Her mother was dead and her father was in prison. She had no one to be with her. I helped her through labor and delivery. In fact, well, we only had about 7 or 8 kids at the time. She came and lived with us for a while. She was a victim of rape by her brother's boyfriend. And she said, I'm not of any religion, but I feel that this isn't going to make me feel any better to give up, to have this abortion. And she sent me the most beautiful note. I'll see if I can find it and share it with you. Years later, Christmas, she wrote and said, the most difficult decision I ever made, the hardest thing I ever did do was to place my baby for adoption. But as I look back at my life, I realize now that I did something wonderful for another human being. It was a great consolation to me. Think of those girls who can't say they have consolation or feel good. Now you and I, again, are walking cheerleaders. We want to help everyone, including those who've been involved with the abortion decision. We want to bring them lovingly into our camp and let them know there's another way. In all the years I've been involved in pro-life, I have never met a woman who wanted an abortion or felt good about abortion. Most of them were devastated, felt pressure, felt panic, felt alone, felt such devastating fear, they thought that was the only thing they could do. We want to offer them hope and help and let them know about God's mercy and God's forgiveness. Now, I mentioned earlier that 40% of the calls to our hotline are men. That's the most shocking thing for me. A lot of them want to help. My wife wants to have an abortion. My girlfriend, my ex-wife is pushing our daughter to have an abortion. I just don't think it's the right thing to do. What can I do to help? Men are natural providers and protectors. We had a young man call the other day and he said, you know, my girlfriend's pregnant. And I didn't think I had any choice in this because it's supposed to be her decision. But then I saw your billboard about the Real Men Love Babies. Have you ever seen that one where the guy's holding a baby? And he said, is there something I can do? So men don't always want to push women to have an abortion. It's wrong for us to say that that's true. You know, the whole world is looking at us and what we're going to do. This is thank heavens for the times have changed, thanks to science. Thanks to those of us who have joined our ranks, the young people who now know the truth because they've seen ultrasound sometimes of their own, you know, themselves before birth. And thanks to the people, the women who had abortions and are now coming into our camp. We've now made it a national issue, thanks to this president, who won't shut up about this issue and a lot of other things. But it's a national issue. It's a national issue for the first time. And we want to keep it that way by our votes and by our prayers, by pushing Congress to do what they can to cut off funding to Planned Parenthood, you know. But I had one time I got a call from the adoption agency and they said, Sister Mary Pilar from the Philippines is coming to deliver 2 more children to Minnesota. Would you please escort her and take care of her and, you know, be the host while she's in Minnesota? So I said, oh, sure. I thought maybe they were checking up on us because now my daughter is 12 years old and she was in a Philippine orphanage where this nun took care of some of these kids. So I go to the airport to pick Sister Mary Pilar up and she's just a, you know, the little Filipinos, they don't get very tall. She's just a little spit of a thing. So the kids were in the backyard shooting baskets when I drove in the driveway, and I said, I whistled to him and said, come on here, I want you to meet Sister Mary Pilar. You want the kids all come up, and my Charlie looks at me and says, is that all the bigger you're going to get? So she was a charming little nun. I had no idea that the bishop in the Philippines had appointed her to be the pro-life representative, and she had no idea that I was a pro-life fanatic. And so we're sitting down to dinner and we're talking, and pretty soon the kids talk about my mom's pro-life closet. Well, that's where I kept all the fetal models and all my speaking. I used to go into schools and speak when I was at home mom. And so she was so excited because she didn't have any material back in the Philippines. So I sent her home with literally bags of pro-life material and fetal models, anything that wasn't nailed down that she could use for her to spread the pro-life message in the Philippines, which was interesting because they had laws against divorce, laws against contraception, and laws against abortion in the Philippines. So why would she need this? I said, Sister, you're a pro-life country. We're not. Why do you need this? And I'll never forget what she said. she said because USAID, International Planned Parenthood, and United Nations Population Fund all funnels money into the Philippines. And so they set up clinics, and the people put on white coats and they go door to door offering free vaccines for our children if our mothers will submit to some of the abortion drugs. Did you ever wonder when you read a package and it said 20,000 women tried this drug, you know, and it's risk-free or whatever? Where do they get these women to submit to try out new drugs or these chemicals? In the Philippines or in foreign countries. At any rate, she said they also offer free vaccines for your children if the husband has a vasectomy or if the wife has an abortion. And she said some of our mothers have seen their children die, their babies, from lack of any of these vaccines or good nutrition. And so if they get this free care for their children, because they've seen one of their children die, they'll submit sometimes to this. And she said, I always feel bad because I know which mothers they are. I said, what do you mean? She says, because when it comes communion time, they sit in the back and I see some of them crying because they can no longer receive communion. Very devious, very evil. The other thing she said that stuck with me, she said, you know, we pray for you in America all the time. Every day we pray for America. I said, we're the richest, most powerful nation. Why do you have to pray for us? You're, you know, in the Philippines. And she said, because if you change your law on abortion, all the other countries will soon follow because you're such a leader in the world. And I never forgot it. We have to change our law because it will fall, as she said, it will fall like dominoes. We have to keep working to change the law. That was Sister Mary Pilar. So what can we do? We are making a difference. We might not think so, but we are making a difference. First, prayer. It's the most powerful weapon we have. I go back to the rosary. Prayer is the most powerful weapon we have. If you don't give me all your money, of course, and we'll put up billboards. But if you don't have anything, pray that the next person that sees that billboard will call us. Or sees that web ad will call us. Or here's that radio commercial. We're now on a Catholic radio, Christian radio. I can't afford, sometimes we do country, but not often. We don't have the funds. But it's amazing. Someone will call and say, I'm going to have an abortion, but something made me call you instead. And I always think it's because somebody out there was praying that the next person that was going to have an abortion will call our hotline for help. That video said we get 220 calls. Since we started doing web ads, we're now up to 320 to 350 calls a month. We can hardly handle them. It's wonderful. And we work with over 3,000 agencies across the United States that offer pregnancy support, post-abortion services. We had a man who called at Christmas time and he said, I heard your ad. He said, I was listening to the radio. I used to belong to a church. I was listening to the radio, but I haven't been in a church in over 10 years. But it's Christmas time. I was flipping stations trying to find a Christmas music, and I happened on this radio station. It happened to be Catholic radio. And I heard your ad. He said, the reason why I haven't been in church in 10 years is because I paid for 2 abortions, and I didn't dare set foot in a church after that. I felt so awful. But he says, I'm getting older, and someday I'm going to die, and I want to be right with God. But I feel like I need to get myself in order. And then we got to talking. I was thanking him. I said, it's Christmas time. We believe in God's forgiveness. I didn't know what religion it was at the time. And I said, you know, it's funny you call because it's a good thing that you called because we have a support group of men who've been through the war. I said it was started by a man who was an atheist in Texas who paid for his child's abortion. And then years later, converted not only to pro-life but Christianity, eventually Catholicism. So this man said, well, I'm a Catholic, and I do need to go to confession, but I feel like I need something else. So we got him in touch with the men's support group. Now, people sometimes ask, well, why do you have so many groups? Why can't we just have one group? I'm tired of writing checks to all these different groups or belonging to so many groups or getting so many newsletters. You know, when abortion came up 40-some years ago, we thought one group was going to do it. We thought people would come to their senses and realize it was a baby, and that would be the end of that. We didn't realize we were going to have to be specialists like doctors and lawyers and have those who took care of the baby and the mother, just the pregnancy support groups, that they would just concentrate on that. And there'd be others who would concentrate on training politicians, teaching them. Many of them are pro-abortion because they don't even know. They don't know what it does to the woman. They do know what it does to the baby, but they don't know what it does to the woman as well. So we need those who concentrate on politics, those who will concentrate on writing legislation, those who will concentrate on education, going into the school, talking to the young people, training the young people to know about the baby, the development of the baby, and know about alternatives to adoption. And then we need those who will be visible signs that might not reach people anywhere they go. The reason why we started is because I was working for Birthright in downtown Minneapolis, and I'd have my husband stay with the kids at supper time, and I'd drive the car downtown. The way it was kind of just to get out of the house, you know, they'd be throwing up diarrhea, and I'm going, I'm out of here, I don't care. It's dead, baby, now I've had them for 18 hours, you can figure this out, you know, I don't care if I ever come back, I'm going to take the long route back. And I get there, and then I think, oh my gosh, I got to pray to ask the Holy Spirit to take over, so all I can think of was these kids throwing up back home with John. And then I think to myself, we get in there, and there'd be no shows, or there'd be only 3 or 4 women that would come. And I think, we're downtown Minneapolis, come on. There's got to be more. Planned Parenthood is right here killing babies. 3,000 to 4,000 babies a day die by abortion. And I'm talking about 1 or 2 or 5 women that I might see. And so what can we do? How can we get an ad out? So we started with the group I was with, and we did bus ads for a while. But then that was just Minneapolis, St. Paul. They couldn't see him on the edge of Grand Forks or anyplace else. So then we got real brave. I went to the group I was with and said, hey, I want to do billboards. And they said, bye. You and your funny ideas. So I wrote to all my people on my Christmas card list and all my pro-life friends and said, give us whatever money you have, we're going to put up billboards. And you saw how primitive we were. We had no hotline. We were in my living room. I had just given birth to my last baby. You know, but we just thought we're just going to tell the truth because the media won't tell the truth. In fact, the first billboard that we put up said, heartbeat, 24 days, listen to the heartbeat. We stole that slogan, listen to the heartbeat, because it used to be from, Chevy used to say, listen to the heartbeat, you know, as a car went down the road. I was hoping they'd sue us so we'd get attention. Now technology proves that it's not 24 days. It's as early as 18, and it could be earlier than that, because our technology is improved. Not the baby, but the technology is improved. Well, that first billboard wasn't up 2 weeks when I got a call from a clinic director in St. Paul, pro-life clinic director, who said, Kuharski, I know that's you behind this billboard. And she says, you got to know, a woman came into our office and said, I'm scheduled for an abortion, but I can't drive by that billboard on my way to work and go through with it. And that's when we realized, this is God. There was no hotline number. This is nothing. But God is using even a simple billboard. I mean, I'm a housewife. I know nothing about advertising. Isn't God having a sense of humor? He uses somebody who all he wants is somebody with zeal and passion that you can't shut up, and then he'll use you. But you know, you ask, what can you do? I would love to have more billboards, but get your kids, get your grandkids involved. If your church and then they would sponsor a car wash or a bake sale. We have some kids in our area, and they do a bake sale every year. In fact, the teacher gave them their choice. We're going to do have a fundraiser this year because it's good for us to raise money to help other people. So they had a choice between 3 organizations. Ours was one. The other 2 were helping kids with cancer, and one was helping the homeless. And they chose Pro-Life Across America. And when I went in to talk to the grade school kids, I said, why did you choose? I heard you had other choices. What made you choose Pro-Life Across America? Because I thought, they can't see the babies that we save. You know, sometimes we don't even know. What made them choose? And the kid raised his hand. He said, easy. We can see where our money goes. They want to see those billboards. They relate to those babies. They want their brothers and sisters, babies. They want to know that they've done something to help those children. So, and in fact, I got to tell you a couple stories. This is a very sweet story that came in the mail one day with a little bit of money. And she says, Dear Pro-Life Across America, and God bless you for what you're doing. My children, Michael 7 and Maggie 5, wanted to send you some money. We're in our 10th month of unemployment, so I explained to the children that when Dad gets a job and we have money, we'll be glad to help this organization. She says, but that wouldn't do. So we decided to do a lemonade stand in front of our house with a fundraiser for your organization. My son carefully lettered a sign, Lemonade for Life, and my daughter adorned it with her drawing of babies on clouds. We saw the face of Jesus in our neighbors as they generously donated money and bought many cups of lemonade. Enclosed was a check for $87.66. This is a picture of the kids. From Marietta, Georgia. Now I want you to know, we had no intention of putting a billboard in Marietta, Georgia, nor do we have enough money. But for $87.66, Minnesota money jumped on top of that, and we put a billboard there, and we've been trying to do it as often as we can. For two little kids that decided they're going to do a lemonade stand. And kids love to do stuff to help other people. This is one we got from Cleveland, Ohio. Me and my sister put up a concession stand. We were selling pop, granola bars, water, Gatorade, Airheads, and chips. I'm not sure what Airheads are, but you teachers may know. We're sending the money that we raised to you. We're sending the money to you because we think that abortion is wrong. We think everyone deserves to live. From Dominic and Emily and Songby, Cleveland, Ohio. These are kids that want to help kids. It's funny, it's an intrinsic thing inside of us, and children especially, they kind of gravitate towards children. I think I have another one. I can go on and on just about some of the little sweet notes. Oh, this is kind of cute. We live in Colorado and would like to see more pro-life presence. Our mother is pregnant. Good. With our fifth sibling. We adore this little baby and want to see more from unborn babies. We thought you were a perfect organization to donate to. Enclosed is $24.75. We'd like you to use this money to try and put up a pro-life billboard in our state. You are a wonderful organization and we wish you luck. Yours sincerely, Claire 10, Dominic 7, Cecilia 5, Gianna 4, and Hala Hala 33 weeks. You can see they draw pictures and everything. I mean, you probably put a billboard in Pueblo, Colorado. This was received from a gentleman who wrote a note and sent a donation and said, every billboard and statement for life pulls me a little farther out of a dark pit and into the light. I had 2 abortions years ago, and your work restores my confidence that someone cared about my babies and someone cares about me. Thank you and God bless you. There's another one. Initially, I found my pregnancy to be devastating. Not only did I consider abortion, I had appointments made. But every time I drove past one of your signs, I'd think, what if I abort the baby and spend the rest of my life regretting it? Well, passing your billboards constantly remind me of the baby I didn't keep. Ultimately, I found I couldn't ignore the billboards that seemed to be everywhere. My baby is 6 months old now and brings the greatest joy. I don't know exactly how much it costs to continue your campaign, but whatever the cost, it's certainly worth it. You really do save children every day, even if you're never told, and I want to say from the very bottom of my heart, thank you for saving mine. Eternally yours, CH, from Minnesota. And then these are kind of some sad ones that we get. I had an abortion this February, the day before Valentine's Day to be exact. I'm still having trouble adjusting. I feel like I carry the grief around me everywhere I go. I can't talk to anyone about it. I need help. I feel like I'm going crazy. I just want to be able to go and talk to someone about it. Or this one. I aborted 3 children. May this save many more. Thank you for these positive ways to reach the public. God bless you. And these are sad. I am in a prison where I can't call your 1-800 number. We can only make collect calls. I had an abortion in 2004 and I'm suffering with this after effects. Please send me anything you have about how to deal with these feelings of shame, guilt, loss, and depression. Most of all, please write me so I can talk to someone about this. Signed, Amanda. No woman is going to get on the table. I don't care how liberated they think they are. No woman is going to get on the table and listen to that machine cut up or suck out her baby and not know from the bottom of her heart that that ended her baby's life and not have some kind of sense of loss and afterward. And we need to reach out and help them, offer them, let them know about God's love and God's forgiveness. And that's what we're trying to do in Pro-Life Across America. We showed you some of the older ads. I put some of the new ones out here. I'll just end by, some of you might have seen some of these ads. It's a black and white issue. These happen to be my grandkids. But Heartbeat, 18 days. This is baby Elizabeth, another little Downs baby that she's one of our newer ads. Every baby is a blessing. Fingerprints 9 weeks. We had a young college girl who said, I was stopped at a stop sign and I looked up and it said the baby had fingerprints at 9 weeks and I'm scheduled for abortion. And she said, my hands shook on the steering wheel, I pulled off the road and I started to sob when I realized that I'm aborting a baby that already has fingerprints. So little things like that can stop it. I could hear 18 weeks from conception. This one, I'm a eye looker, development 14 days from conception. I had an interesting call from a man one time who said, he called our hotline. And he said, I want you to one here, and it's the one about the looker. And I said, okay, and he said, well, I don't agree with you pro-lifers. I'm a lawyer, I think it should be legal. I think every woman should have a right to have an abortion if she wants an abortion, and my wife and I decided that we would only have 2 kids, no more than 2 kids. Well, my wife is pregnant, and she's scheduled for an abortion because, and I said, well, can I get you in touch with a clinic in your area in Seattle? I can give you some good clinics. No, it's not. I said, if you need any medical, we can help you with medical. No, he says, we don't have any problem. He says, I'm a professional. We have a full-time nanny. She works professionally. We probably make, he says, we pull in about $750,000 a year between the 2 of us. But we agreed before we got married that we'd only have 2 kids. My wife hates pregnancy. Oh, who loves it? But I want to meet her. But anyways, maybe. Today you do, honey, I know.
Some days.
Yeah, some days, right. Yeah, when it's over, you'll love it. But he said, so when she got pregnant, and I figured, well, it's her decision. But he said, I thought you people had a right to know, even though I don't agree with you. He said, that billboard on Broadway with the looker that said the baby had eye development, this is his exact words, generated a conversation we would never have had. And we talked and talked. And in the end, she canceled the abortion. I thought the people have a right to know that billboard did save a baby's life. My baby, he said. I said, I bet you want to donate to us. He wasn't ready for that. I'm for anything, you know, anybody, I'll take any of their money, help them get together faster. And these are our news billboards. A baby is a baby, born and unborn. We need to say this now because we're talking about killing babies after birth. Hardly 18 days. We also want them to know the baby has pain. What? I could feel pain before I was born? We want them to know. We also want them to know, this is another little adopted baby. Born to play, I was moving 10 weeks from conception. Or double blessing. Two babies that were parents. Mother is Asian, the father is black. She was adopted. Double blessing, our hearts beat 18 days from conception. And again, just some of our, we do them. And this little guy, born to sail, just to plant the seed. We're not arguing, we're not fighting, we're planting a seed about little things about their child's development that can stick with people and remind them. And we're reaching out, ad companies say to me, well, who's your real audience? I said, my audience is everyone that has reaches the age of reason. You know, from a 7-year-old on up. Because they can know the truth. Even if their parents are pro-abortion, they can know. That little guy in there was moving and kicking and alive before birth. So anything you can do to pray for us, to help us, to promote us in any way. Get us more billboards in North Dakota, or tell your friends in Arizona or whoever else you know that now is our chance. We have this for the first time it's political news. We're not political, we're tax deductible, we're totally educational. We'll leave the politics to the other organizations to do. But I can't tell you how many people would call us during the elections and even after. And one particular guy I can remember calling saying, I did not want to vote for this person. There was no way I was going to vote for this person. Then I saw your billboard as I was driving into the polls, and I thought, I can't vote for her. I got to vote for him. So it's subliminal. It works. So I just thank all of you for your prayers and whatever you can do to help us keep going. And I'm open to any questions you have.
Do we have a billboard anywhere around here?
Yes, where is it?
It's out on the frontage road, kind of by the Stanley Welding Shop. It's like
Our billboard here is by the Stanley
Welding Shop. It's
Welding
on the
shop.
frontage road, like if you're traveling west, like you're going towards Cashways, but it's on that frontage road, and it's got the little girl that I think
Every
she's
baby is a
got
blessing.
Yeah, every baby is a blessing.
And you have to know the cost of a billboard ranges. It depends if it's in a rural area. It might be as low as $600, but that's not counting what goes on the board. Just to rent the structure for 1 month is $600. If it's in New York City, it's thousands, or Chicago, or it depends. The more visible, they have a way of measuring how many people a day see the board, and the more people that they measure that sees it, the higher the price goes. Now, I won't kid you, I've never paid full price for a billboard. I tell all the ad companies I work with, I would just say I'm a mom with a bunch of kids and I've never paid full full price for anything, so I want to bargain, you know. It reminds me of a story. Somebody gave me money and said, I want this to go to Colorado Springs. Well, I've never done business in Colorado Springs. I didn't know what company to use. So I called up this guy and I said, you know, my name is, Mary Kuharski, and I work for Pro-Life Across America. And he goes, yeah, I think that sounds controversial, lady. I don't think we take those kind of ads. I said, well, let me show you. I'm gonna fax it to you to show you the kind of ads we have, because ours are very tender and very positive, and I think you'll like our ads. He said, yeah, it was real fast talking to Tony later from the East Coast, because they don't talk that fast in Colorado. Well, anyways, so I sent him the ads. He says, okay, lady, I'll give you a try, but our ads are $1,000 a piece. And I said, no, I have $1,000. I need 2 ads for $1,000. I can't pay $1,000 for just 1 ad because it's against my constitution. He says, no, lady, he says, and even that, he says, we're so full up now. We don't really have any ads, even maybe on the side streets, back streets or whatever, but you'll never, especially if you're not going to pay full price. I said, just give me a break. His name was Tony. I said, Tony, just give me a break. Give me 2 ads. You place them whatever months you got a space for us. It doesn't have to be this month. I'll send you the ads. You're going to love them. And you just put them up there whenever you've got the space, and 2 for the price of 1. How about it? He says, okay, I'll think about it. I'll give you a break. So about 2 weeks go by, and he says, hey, this is Tony. You got any more copy? Now, copy is billboard slang for, do you have any more billboard posters? And I said, well, Tony, I got posters, but I don't have any money. And he said, well, I'll tell you the truth. He says, because I told him, Tony, I'm going to pray that these billboards go up in a very, very visible area. And he said, I'm sure you look like this. What? So he called me and said, well, I don't know, lady, whatever you were doing, you said you were praying or whatever, something worked. He said, there was a car dealership that bought out all the main street of town, and they had it for the whole summer. And their traffic went down, and the customer service went down or whatever. And so he says they pulled their contract. So he says, you're up on the main street, both of your ads, and if you send me 2 more, we'll put those up too. So, I would say, yes, Holy Spirit, thank you. We never know. And sometimes when they're very in an out-of-the-way place, and we think, oh, no one's going to see this ad, or the Holy Spirit touches people in ways we just can't even believe. So we have to live with the Holy Spirit. So the average cost is, I say, between $635 or $4,000, and that's per month. We have ways of stretching it, but yeah. Anybody else?
What would happen if you had property yourself?
Oh, great property. Good idea. Good question. What would happen if we had property yourself? The first thing you want to do is ask your township, can you put it on? We have a lot of people from here to Texas that we have over 1,000 people who own their own property and have posted billboards on their property, and we never have to pay for them. We don't pay rent. In fact, the Knights of Columbus or groups of churchmen, we give them instructions on how to build the frame. Now, they're not as beautiful, they're not as big, they're not as glamorous, and they can't have our hotline number on it. Usually the transit, ours is Minnesota Department of Transportation, but whatever, yours would be North Dakota. They don't allow, they call it a solicitation. I can tell you a cute story. Minnesota was not going to allow our billboards on private property. And so we had a farmer, they took it all the way to the Department of Transportation to stop our billboards from being on the property. Naturally, they were already up. And 4x8s or 5x11, so it had to go before their department committee to rule on it. And so they went to see the farmer, and the farmer said, you got a sign that's soliciting here for this pro-life across America. You can't do that legally. This is on the easement for the highway department, so it's too close to the highway, even though it's on his property. And he said, yeah. He said, well, I had a decal corn sign for 12 years. No one bothered me, and that isn't soliciting. I don't know what is. Isn't that good? That's shut that conversation down. So it's nice if you're in a small town because you might know your township and who runs your township, so it might be very easy for you to get permission to have a sign on close to your highway or whatever streetway or whatever. And these signs we have it's called Jack's Mini Billboards. If you take our newsletter, we talk about Jack's Mini Billboards, and we can give you the instructions on how to build the frame. And the frames are very simple. In fact, if you slide and then you come to Minnesota to pick up the sign, that's the only catch when there's a small sign. We can also build or order banners for you. They're more expensive, and you can hang them from a church or from a school or we know a Catholic church is putting them near their cemetery, but, you know, and they're beautiful, and they can be the exact, like the billboard sign itself, whereas the Jack's Mini ones, if you see by our newsletter, they're specially made. We can't use our phone number, and they don't, well, they have a baby's face on it, but they're not quite as glamorous as the great big ones. Doesn't matter. We had a farmer up in the Iron Range of Minnesota. If you know where that is, that's that little point that goes way up. And he said, I'm going to put, he was out Knights of Columbus, so he built a small frame, put a 4x8 on his property, right where his cows, you know, whatever. And I got a call from a young girl who said, my girlfriend is going to have an abortion in Minnesota, in St. Paul, so we're on our way down to have the abortion, but she saw this sign, and it was on this Bernie's property. And she said, it got us talking about the baby having a heartbeat, and we're almost into Minneapolis now, or St. Paul. And she said she's changing her mind, and she turned out the girl that was going to have the abortion, but the friend that drove didn't want her to have the abortion, but she didn't want her to go through this abortion to be alone, so she jumped in the car to be with her. Well, it was that little sign on Bernie's pasture that got her attention, got her talking, because it talked about the baby's heartbeat. So these simple signs that are on private property they can still touch hearts as much as the great big commercial ones. So if you want to know more, I can give you Jack's telephone number, or it's right in our newsletter. We highly recommend it. The only catch is if you do Jack's Mini billboards, you have to come to Minnesota. And the reason why is because the signs aren't made out of vinyl that you can roll up. They're made out of heavy polypropylene, and they come in 2 or 3 sections. You slide them in, you can bolt them down, you can change them after you take that sign out and put a new one in so it keeps the message fresh. But we who live in Minnesota and North Dakota and endure all kinds of unusual weather, these things last. They're wonderful. Whereas if you had other types of cheaper material, it wouldn't last. So thank you for asking about that. That's great, Claudia. Anybody else? Well, I thank you for your patience. I still have some lovely lady prayer cards left if anybody wants one. And of course, take our newsletters. We still have some bags. Use them for gifts or CDs if you have somebody else to listen to some Catholic talks or whatever. In the meantime, I just want to say thank you so much for your patience, for your kindness, for your generous hospitality. Isn't this group wonderful? Well, all those who helped us here today, please stand up. Claudia, Debbie. Committee like this fuss over other people, so it's an honor to be here. And Father, thank you for your generosity in being with us today and for allowing us to hold it here. Our way of seeing things is that we'll all pray for Father, will we not? And maybe Father will close with a blessing for us too.
Let's give her.
We thank you.
You're
awesome.
Thank you very much for your time coming to speak to us today, and we hope that your apostolate continues to bear fruit. The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
And Almighty God bless you, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Go in peace.
Thank you.
We have just a couple of little things at the end here that we want to take care of before we quit. Just a little thing about your name tags. If you could take those off and just leave them in the basket up there, then we can use them next week. Point number 2. We are pretty much decided that this will be our last time. So we want to thank all of you that have supported us through this whole time. And thank you for doing this. Now that doesn't mean it has to be the last retreat. We are looking at forming a committee possibly, and where we can help the younger. I see about 4 or 5 of you in this group that I would love to get involved in this. And I won't name your names, but your powerhouses, and I hope the Holy Spirit burns a hole right here in your heart, because you know that you're supposed to be involved in something like this. But anyway, just this message, I kind of think that might have been one of the reasons why we didn't have as many here this time. I mean, I know we were fighting graduations in spring and all this kind of stuff. But this is a message that we really have to fight for. So if you,
Yeah.
This has just really been a joy to plan all of these retreats for you. I think we get more out of it than you do, just working together and just growing in God's love. So we just really appreciate you, coming year after year after year, because without you, we wouldn't have a retreat. So we thank you.
Yeah, I just will echo what Dave said. I think it's been wonderful to be able to serve you, and I mean, the one thing we always talk about is just hoping that you can come here and just feel refreshed and renewed and pampered and loved, and something that I know that we do as we work, and for myself especially, when I'm in there cooking for you, I've got my rosary going, and stop it!
she's my daughter, we can cry all the time.
And anytime we make anything, and this year I didn't get anything made, and I'm sorry for that, but every time when I'm crocheting something for you or whatever, and I'm praying for you, so it allows us to, I think, grow in holiness too, because, I'm praying and I'm listening to, the music or whatever, and I'm thinking about you, and I'm like, yay, it's, retreat weekend. And so it is, even though it's a lot of work, it's always been a great joy for us to be here. And I tell you, when I walk in that door Saturday mornings, of the day of the retreat, I think we all feel the same way. It's just like, we're so excited, and it's so beautiful, and it's just like, we're just so happy to be here. So I do want to thank too, a lot of faces that we have seen year after year after year, and I sometimes think about, oh, I wonder if so-and-so will be here this year. Oh, I wonder if so-and-so will be here. So it's just awesome, when you've come back, and so I hope that we've, done a good job. No, I am done. Thank you.
For those younger people of the parish, I will give you every single file that I have. So it'll be easy for you to take over.
Everything on the computer.
Everything on the computer is yours.
We'll teach you how to do whatever we've done.
Yes.
Because you're new, you're fresh, you got some stamina.
You have young feet.
But we don't want to see it end. We just don't. But we're getting to the point where,
Ask for volunteers for committee.
asking right now?
Yeah, right now.
Yeah.
Okay, if I can.
And come on. Next year we can walk you through everything.
For sure.
Yeah. And you don't have to have it when we have it. I mean, we don't. It could be
It's the first time we've ever had it in May.
Yeah. Okay, can I put my 4 candidates down that I thought about?
Put it on the table for people.